I've always believed that control defines success. Control over your company, your emotions, your time, even the way you stir your coffee. That morning, I had all three under command. The soft hum of the city outside the glass walls of the Grand Elixir, the most exclusive restaurant in downtown Manhattan, matched the rhythm of my confidence. My assistant, Ron, had confirmed everything. The investors were ready, the documents were prepared, and in exactly 30 minutes, I'd be closing a $100 million partnership that would make Arctex Global untouchable. I wasn't nervous. I was focused. That's the difference between men who dream and men who do. I adjusted my navy suit, glanced at my reflection in the polished silverware, and gave myself the same quiet nod I did before every major deal. Then, I noticed her, the waitress. She wasn't part of the usual morning staff. The Grand Elixir was famous for its regulars, people who treated service like a ritual. But this one, she was new. She couldn't have been more than her mid-20s. Her hair was neatly tied in a bun, her uniform crisp, and her face carried an expression that seemed half determined, half troubled. When she approached my table, I noticed her hands trembling slightly as she set down the coffee. "Good morning, sir. Are you Mr. Matthew Hart?" she asked softly, her accent lilting with a trace of warmth that didn't belong in a corporate battlefield like this. "Yes," I replied without looking up from my tablet. "And you are?" "Monali," she said. "Your server for the morning." "Thank you, Monali. Just keep the coffee warm and the interruptions cold, all right?" I said with a faint smirk. She gave a short nod and walked away. Something about her composure felt rehearsed, like she was trying hard to blend in. A few minutes later, my business partners arrived, two men from a Singapore-based tech firm and one investment representative from Zurich. The atmosphere at the table grew thick with numbers, projections, and ambition. We were sharks discussing how to divide the ocean. Just as we began to review the final pages, Monali appeared again. She placed a glass of water near my hand and leaned slightly closer than necessary. I was about to wave her away when she whispered, "Sir, you have to leave. Now." I froze. The sound of her voice wasn't desperate. It was urgent. Controlled panic, wrapped in calm professionalism. I turned to look at her, confused. "Excuse me?" I whispered back. "Please, sir," she said under her breath. "You can't stay here." "Not for another minute." Her eyes darted toward the back of the restaurant where two men in suits had just entered. They didn't look like regular diners. Their eyes swept the room with purpose. I felt a flicker of irritation. "Miss, this is a very important meeting. If this is some kind of... It's not a prank." She cut me off softly. "Trust me. If you don't leave now, you'll regret it." For a second, I studied her. The nervous twitch in her fingers, the way her breathing had quickened. The absolute sincerity behind her fear. Something about it wasn't acting. My investors were already noticing the tension. One of them, Lee, raised an eyebrow. "Everything all right, Mr. Hart?" I forced a smile. "Yes, just, service issues." But my hand had stopped signing the document. The pen hovered mid-air, the ink just beginning to bleed onto the signature line of a $100 million deal. "Sir, please," Monali said again, barely audible this time. "If you trust your instincts, go. Right now." Her words hit me harder than I expected. Because that's the one thing I prided myself on, my instincts. They had never failed me. Still, logic pushed back. Why would a random waitress know something I didn't? Then I saw it. One of the men who had entered was watching me. He wasn't pretending. His focus was locked like a sniper, and when he spoke into the earpiece clipped to his collar, every rational part of me turned cold. I stood up abruptly. "Gentlemen," I said to the table, forcing composure into my tone. "I need a minute," Lee frowned. "Matthew, we're mid-signature. What's going—" But I was already walking toward the corridor, my heart pounding in my ears. Monali followed a step behind, whispering urgently, "This way, through the staff door." We slipped through a narrow passage behind the bar, past a line of startled chefs and into a hallway that smelled of coffee and detergent. I could hear faint commotion in the dining area, chairs scraping, hurried footsteps. "Would you mind telling me what the hell is going on?" I demanded once we were out of sight. Monali turned, her voice trembling but determined. Those men weren't customers. They were federal agents, and they're not here for you. Not exactly. But if you'd stayed, they'd have taken you down with the others. What others? I asked. The Zurich investor, the one sitting across from you. He's under investigation for laundering money through international shell companies. The agents came to make the arrest. If you had signed those papers, you'd have been tied to his crimes. My mouth went dry. How do you know all this? She hesitated, then reached into her apron and pulled out a small ID card, half concealed, half exposed. I caught a glimpse of an emblem I recognized instantly. She wasn't just a waitress. And suddenly I realized my morning wasn't under control anymore. It was about to change my life. The hallway behind the Grand Elixir felt claustrophobic, all narrow pipes, flickering lights, and the distant clatter of dishes. I could still hear the echo of hurried footsteps somewhere behind us. I took a step back, trying to process what just happened. You're telling me the Zurich investor, Marius Klein, is being arrested? Monali nodded, her breathing uneven. He's been under surveillance for months. He's been moving dirty money through clean contracts. That deal you were about to sign would have pulled you in as a legal accomplice. That's insane, I muttered. My legal team vetted every detail, every account, every transaction. She gave me a look that said I was smarter than that. Do you really think someone like him leaves real numbers on paper? I wanted to argue, but the sound of heavy boots echoed from the dining hall. Come on, she whispered. We have to move before they clear the exits. She pushed open a metal door leading to the loading dock. Cold morning air hit my face, mixing with the faint smell of diesel and coffee grounds. My heart thudded against my ribs. For the first time in years, I wasn't in control. What's your real name? I asked as we slipped behind a delivery van. She hesitated. Monali Patel, Field Officer, Financial Crimes Division. I blinked. Field Officer? Yes. I was undercover as staff for 2 weeks, monitoring Klein's meetings. We expected him to meet a partner today, but we didn't expect you. She looked at me seriously, her eyes softening for the first time. When I realized you were about to sign those papers, I had seconds to decide whether to blow my cover or save you. I let out a shaky laugh. So I was just collateral damage in a federal sting operation? Collateral victim, she corrected quietly. If you'd signed, your name would be on an agreement transferring funds from his front company. You'd be under arrest by now. The absurdity of it all made my mind spin. A waitress, no, an agent, had just pulled me out of a $100 million deal. And possibly prison. Why didn't you warn me earlier? I asked. I couldn't. We were being monitored. Every move, every table camera. The moment I saw those men come in, I knew the operation was live. She ran a hand through her hair, breaking her perfect bun. For the first time, she looked less like an agent and more like someone fighting to stay composed. Listen, she continued, they'll clear the restaurant in minutes. They might want to question you, but for now you're not a target. Just disappear for a while. Don't go back to your office, don't make calls, and whatever happens, don't trust anyone connected to Klein. My instincts kicked back in. You expect me to run and hide like a criminal? Her eyes met mine. No. I expect you to stay alive long enough to learn the truth. Her words carried a gravity that silenced my pride. Somewhere inside the restaurant, a voice barked. Secure the exits. We ducked as a black SUV pulled up by the curb. Monali's hand gripped my arm, firm and sure. This way, she said, guiding me through a narrow alley between two buildings. We reached a quieter street, the city's chaos muted by tall glass walls. I could finally hear my thoughts again, though none of them made sense. I turned to her. Why help me? You could have let me sign and watched me burn. It would have made your case stronger. She hesitated before answering. Because you didn't deserve it. I've read your file, Matthew Hart. You built your company from nothing. You take care of your employees. You donate without publicity. You're not like them. Her words caught me off guard. You've been investigating me? Monitoring, she corrected softly. But the more I read, the more I realized you weren't one of them. I couldn't let another honest man get crushed because of someone else's greed. The way she said it, quiet but fierce, made something shift inside me. Before I could respond, her earpiece crackled faintly. She touched it, listening. Her expression turned serious. "They're sweeping the area," she murmured. "We have to split. If they see us together, they'll think you're involved." "Wait," I said, stepping closer. "I need answers." "What happens to me now?" "To the deal?" "To my name." "You'll get your answers," she said, "but not here. Go to Pier 7 tonight, 9 p.m. There's a small cafe by the water called Blue Lantern. Sit at the corner table and order mint tea. I'll find you." And just like that, she turned and vanished into the crowd, her black vest blending with the morning blur. I stood frozen, the city roaring around me. People passed, cars honked, but my world had gone silent. I looked down at my hand, still clutching the pen I never got to use. The ink had bled slightly onto my palm, like a signature that fate refused to let me sign. I didn't know who Monali truly was. I didn't know what kind of storm I had just stepped into, but I knew one thing. She had just saved my life. And maybe changed it forever. The sky above Pier 7 looked like brushed steel, cloudy, cold, and heavy with the kind of silence that makes even the sea hold its breath. By the time I reached the Blue Lantern Cafe, my mind had become a loop of questions that had no answers. Every headline that could have destroyed my career flashed in my head. CEO involved in a 100 fraud scheme. Matthew Hart arrested in federal sweep. Arctech stocks plummet overnight, all because of one deal I didn't sign. I pushed open the cafe door. It was small, quiet, and smelled faintly of mint and roasted beans. The kind of place where secrets go to hide. The waitress, the real one this time, pointed toward the back. "Corner table, right? The lady's waiting for you?" My heart thudded. There she was. Monali. Dressed in plain jeans and a gray coat, her hair loose, looking nothing like the waitress from this morning, yet somehow more like herself. She smiled faintly as I sat across from her. "I'm glad you came." "I almost didn't," I admitted. "Half my board thinks I've gone missing. My assistant says there are investigators outside my building. I've lost control of everything." Her expression softened. "Sometimes losing control is how you find the truth." I exhaled sharply. "Then tell me the truth, Monali." "All of it." She took a sip of her tea before speaking. The Zurich investor Marius Klein wasn't working alone. He's been laundering money through shell companies tied to several American firms, and yours was one of them. I stared at her, stunned. "That's impossible." "I oversee every partnership personally." She nodded slowly. "I believe you." "But your CFO doesn't, David," I said, disbelief twisting my voice. "He's been with me for 10 years. He's the most loyal person I know." Her eyes didn't flinch. "He's also the one who connected Klein to your firm. We've been tracking his financial activity for months. Offshore accounts, encrypted transfers, dummy invoices, all routed through Arctex's foreign branch." I felt my stomach drop. "You're saying David framed me?" "I'm saying he used your reputation as his shield. No one questions the CEO who built his empire from nothing. That's what made the scheme perfect." The words hit harder than I expected. David had been more than my employee. He was my friend. My brother in battle. I leaned back, rubbing my temples. "This can't be real. There has to be a mistake." "There isn't," she said softly. "And Klein's arrest is just the beginning. Once the feds connect the dots, your company will be under scrutiny too. Unless you help us expose the truth." I looked up at her. "Help you? How?" Her tone grew firm. "By playing along. We need evidence only you can access. The encrypted project files David kept hidden under the Neptune codename. They contain the money trail. If you can get them, we can clear your name and take down everyone involved." I stared at her, caught between disbelief and a strange pull I couldn't explain. "Why are you trusting me with this?" I asked. "For all you know, I could be lying to you." Her lips curved slightly. "Because I've seen how you look when you lie." "You don't." I wanted to respond, but something about the way she said it, quiet, certain, froze me. For a moment, the world around us disappeared. The flickering candlelight, the soft jazz music, the reflection of raindrops sliding down the window, it all blurred into the space between her eyes and mine. Then she broke the silence. "There's more." Of course there was. She placed a small flash drive on the table. Inside, this is everything we've collected so far: surveillance, transaction data, and your company's internal communications. Review it tonight. Tomorrow, I'll contact you with the next step. I picked up the drive slowly. You're risking your career doing this, aren't you? She smiled faintly. That's the thing about doing the right thing, Matthew. It's never convenient. Before I could say another word, her earpiece buzzed faintly again. Her posture shifted. Alert, tense. What is it? I asked. They found me, she whispered. I have to go. Who? She didn't answer. Her eyes darted toward the window where a black car had just stopped across the street. Two men stepped out, scanning the cafe entrance. Monali stood abruptly. They weren't supposed to know about this meeting. Someone tipped them off. Wait, Monali! I grabbed her wrist. You can't just disappear again. She looked at me with an expression I'll never forget. Part fear, part resolve, and part something I didn't yet understand. Keep the drive safe, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. If I don't make it, trust no one but what's on it. And then she was gone. I watched helplessly as she slipped out the side door into the fog, blending with the night. The men outside followed seconds later. I sat there, frozen. My hand wrapped around the small flash drive like it was the last piece of truth left in my world. The waitress who wasn't a waitress had just vanished again, this time into danger. And somehow, I knew. My life, my company, and maybe hers too, were now tangled in something far bigger than a $100 million deal. I didn't sleep that night. The flash drive sat on my desk like a ticking bomb. Every time I looked at it, I heard Monali's voice. If I don't make it, trust no one but what's on it. Rain hammered the city outside my penthouse windows, the skyline blurred by fog and regret. I poured myself a glass of scotch, sat down, and opened my laptop. The drive blinked once. Then a password prompt appeared. I hesitated for a second. Monali hadn't told me the code, but something about her earlier words replayed in my mind. Sometimes losing control is how you find the truth. I typed truth. The screen flickered and unlocked. My breath caught. Hundreds of files appeared. Encrypted documents, transaction ledgers, voice recordings. I opened one labeled Project Neptune, internal chain. There it was. Wire transfers, dummy corporations, falsified accounts, all tied to my company's name, and every single one approved by David Larson, my CFO. My hands trembled as I scrolled. There were voice notes, too, internal calls recorded by federal surveillance. One caught my attention immediately, David's voice. He won't suspect a thing. Matthew's too busy chasing expansion. Once the deal's done, Arctex becomes our shell and Klein gets his wash clean. Unknown voice. And if he finds out? David. Then the feds take him down before he takes us. My world shattered. 10 years of friendship, loyalty, shared dreams, all of it, a carefully painted illusion. He had used me to build his empire of lies, and then another file appeared, a hidden folder titled Agent Report, Monali Patel. I opened it. My heart stopped. Agent Patel compromised. Suspected mole within division. Termination order under review. I stood up so fast that the chair toppled backward. They weren't just after me. They were after her. She had risked everything, her career, her life, to save me. And now her own agency had turned against her. Without thinking, I grabbed my coat and ran out. It took me 40 minutes to reach the old industrial district, the same area where the cafe surveillance cameras had last tracked Monali. My car skidded to a stop near a deserted warehouse, its windows glowing faintly. A black SUV was parked outside, the same one from the cafe. My pulse thundered. I crept closer, peering through a gap in the metal wall. Inside, two men in tactical suits were interrogating someone. A woman, Monali. She was handcuffed to a chair, bruised but defiant. "Tell us where the drive is," one man barked. "I told you," she spat. "He destroyed it." That was a lie. She was protecting me. My chest tightened. I'd never been the reckless type, but right then I didn't care about logic or control. All I knew was that I couldn't let her pay for saving me. I looked around and spotted a maintenance door half open at the back. My mind raced. I slipped in, grabbed a rusted pipe lying on the floor, and waited for my moment. When one of the men turned, I swung. Hard. The pipe connected with a dull thud, and he went down. The other spun around, drawing his gun. "Don't!" I shouted. "Let her go." He hesitated, recognition flickering in his eyes. "Hart? You shouldn't be here." "Neither should you," I said, stepping closer. "She's innocent. You know it. She's a liability," he growled. "You both are." Before he could aim again, Monali kicked the chair sideways, sending him off balance. I lunged, knocking the gun from his hand. The weapon clattered across the concrete. Moments later, he was out cold. For a second, there was only the sound of our breathing. Ragged, desperate, alive. I rushed to her side, breaking the plastic ties around her wrists. "You're insane," she said between shaky laughs. "You could have been killed. So could you," I replied. "We're even now." Her smile was faint but real. "You shouldn't have come, Matthew. I couldn't stay away," I said quietly. "Not after everything you risked for me." Her eyes softened. And for a moment, everything else, the rain, the danger, the fear, vanished. We walked out together into the cold dawn, the first rays of sunlight breaking through the clouds. Later that morning, I handed over the flash drive and all evidence to a trusted contact within the Justice Department, someone Monali identified as clean. Within days, headlines exploded. Arctech CFO arrested in international fraud scandal, undercover agent exposes billion-dollar laundering network. My name was cleared. Klein and David were gone. But Monali was nowhere to be found. They said she was reassigned, her identity wiped for protection. I knew what that meant. She had disappeared into the shadows again, the way agents do when their work becomes too dangerous. Weeks passed. I rebuilt what was left of my company, this time slower, wiser, grounded. But every morning when I passed the Grand Elixir, I found myself looking for her, half expecting her to walk out with a coffee pot and that same calm urgency in her eyes. Then one rainy evening, I found an envelope waiting at my office door. No return address. Inside was a single photo of Pier 7 and a handwritten note. "Sometimes losing control is how you find the truth." I smiled. For the first time in a long time, it wasn't the smile of a CEO or a man chasing perfection. It was the smile of someone who had finally learned that sometimes the deal that changes your life isn't the one you sign. It's the one you walk away from.